really quantify it. And I do realize that, I'm the same way. I'm not really salesy and pushy, and, you lean on quality, and you lean on, the kind of like integrity of what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The product's good. Are you giving people a good price for the product? Are you giving them good service? All these things were things that he was really, really interested in. And, it showed, right? I mean, who had 300 surfboards in the shop back then? Who had hundreds of wetsuits, literally hundreds of wetsuits? I mean, nobody. It was like nothing I've seen anywhere,
And it's amazing because it's not a massive house. It was
right.
very efficient in how you displayed everything.
There was stuff everywhere, man. It was a mess. It was a mess. And, years later when I went back to visit, Rick had gotten sick in the shop and really, really seen hard times. He just didn't have the energy for it anymore. And, it just it was such a mess, at the end. He didn't have the strength to kind of like keep it up. And I'm not sure he had people around that were really as passionate about it as the crew when I was there.
Yeah.
The crew when I was there was next level. Like
it's like kind of heyday, like 80s Long Island, things were kind of thriving,
It was incredible.
Whereas I feel like particularly in the 21st century, Long Island has taken maybe a little bit of a hit in some ways, and those areas don't have as many kids maybe, or the kids today are just not into surfing. They're just more into video games and other stuff potentially.
It's pretty interesting that you say that. I mean, I don't spend enough time in the main heart of Long Island anymore to really know what it's like. I'm in Brooklyn, the city. I surf Rockaway mostly.
Yeah. And
if I'm surfing the island, I'm mostly surfing east, right?
Yeah.
Napeague, Montauk, all the way out there. Occasionally I'll still go back to Gilgo because it's like, I love being there. It's my home. But I don't spend as much time in the middle of the island as I used to. But Long Island is, as you know, it's a fascinating place. It's the best and worst of everything.
Absolutely. It's like, there's some fucking amazing things in Long Island. You're like, just go to Meadowbrook State Park even. You're like, holy crap, how does this exist here? And it's like gorgeous outdoor reserve and all this awesome stuff. And then you have like these horrible strip malls, and, no walking and everything's like, you got to drive everywhere. And as a kid, that was so aggravating, like having to wait for your parents or wait for a lift to go somewhere,
So, I tell people, as much as I love Long Island, and I do, I mean, it should be evidenced in what we do. We occasionally will do Long Island graphics and stuff at Noah, but I know nobody cares about, but we just do it because we love it. But, I tell people, like, I could blindfold you, drive you around for 24 hours, drop you off, and you really could be anywhere. You could be in Kentucky, you could be in Ohio. You would never know.
Yeah.
But then you drive 35 minutes north and you're in like, you're like, well, is this Beverly Hills? Where am I?
I know.
Mansions. And so it's a really fascinating place. And, I have a theory about suburban living generally, which is that the people that come from the suburbs and go to more metropolises, right? New York, LA, even Miami, London, people who move to these places from the suburbs are the ones who work so much harder than everybody else to create new things and new ideas because they have that kind of suburban chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
So they, it's like, Keith Haring wasn't from New York City. You know what I mean? Like he had to come to New York to like stake his claim. And I feel like that's a real thing that occurs. Suburban kids take it to the next level because, they don't have that pedigree. They don't have it like, well, I'm from here. I'm cool just because.
Exactly.
I grew up in the middle of everything. I know everybody and I know what's good and this and that. So I work harder at it. Yeah. And then you elevate and you really take things further than they might have gone.
It's that. And you also have, when we were kids, at least, you had a lot of time to think. You had a lot of time, you were bored. I don't know about you, but like I craved living near people or near a town or something that I could even walk to, and I remember like my mom moved to West Islip and I was like, holy shit, in 10 minutes, I could bike into Babylon, like that's cool. And there's shops there and other kids, and skate places and all that sort of stuff. And, and I think like when you go into the city, you crave building a community. And so I think a lot of suburban kids kind of crave that kind of community that you can help build or be part of here in the city. And then like, there's just creativity too. You have a lot of time to think, Right.
I mean, in the 80s, right? The things that we were into were not accepted.
Exactly. It was rebellious to be into, to be a skater or surfer. You were, surfing was banned from pretty much most beaches. A lot of people don't remember when I tell them like, yo, I saw kids get surfboards confiscated at Robert Moses. They weren't even surfing. They were just walking.
Skateboarding was illegal in the town.
I know.
Like we went to town hall and like did like this whole, like we had to like speak before all this like town board or whatever to try and get skateboarding legalized on the streets. I mean, it was complete insanity. I mean, the guy who choked out the kid, the lifeguard, I don't know if you remember this story, but this lifeguard just lost his shit one day.
I don't know this one.
Choked out this young surfer. What? Like, his daughter was in my class in high school, and he lost it one day. The kid was like, lipping off to him because you weren't allowed to surf. It was like, I'm thinking it was either field 3 or field 5. I can't remember, but the guy lost it and like ended up like beating up a kid and getting in all sorts of trouble and stuff. It really got heated. And think about it. There was barely anybody surfing back then.
There was barely anyone like at the beach even at times, like
on October 1st, you were alone on the beach, like,
are you kidding? Like it's so funny now. Like I think so much back to then. I'm like, man, we surfed. Like I had so many sessions alone. Like I had sessions alone at certain places we won't mention on here that are really good. Now that's impossible, or it's really rare to get that. It's and again, surfing and skating were considered like, you were considered part of a gang almost. It was not encouraged amongst a lot of kids and parents. And to be working in a surf or skate shop too, you probably had to deal with those parents coming into there and they're all uncomfortable and awkward too.
I mean, it was a really interesting culture because the people that did come, obviously were a certain type of personality, and if their kids were into it, most of the parents were trying to encourage their kids and support it and that kind of thing. There was a lot of cool people. They just were spread out.
Yeah,
they were few and far between. You had to travel long distances to find your kind of like tribe.
Did you have anyone that surfed or skate in your high school? Did you have other friends, or were
my immediate circle of friends?
Yeah.
For a while, no. But then, so Angelo Santoro, he ended up working at the shop with me. He's one of my oldest friends. He got into boogie boarding and eventually into surfing. But he wasn't always, right? It was like, he didn't skate the way I did, but he ended up going lifelong, like in college, he was a tech rep for Vans and really got into snowboarding. He's still big time snowboarder. He lifeguards at Point of Woods, in Fire Island. Like it's become his whole life. And he really grew into a person who built his life around surfing and snowboarding in the water. But it felt like I was alone for a really long time in my particular grade.
Yeah.
My brother and his friends graduated and they were kind of like the last of their kind. And I mean, I like the stories are hilarious, right? The stuff I would wear to school, like the football guys would be like, making comments about it and everything, like making fun of me. But there's two great stories related to like this cross culture thing, and this was something that even as a 15-year-old kid, I recognized was going to lead to future things. First, I dated an older girl. And every Friday there would be some party at somebody's house, right? Usually football player parties, that kind of thing. So her friends were like the football guys. So I would end up going to these parties and, they would look at me really sideways. And like, I was like shaking in my boots. These guys just hated me. But one of the best players on the team was really into metal. And his interest in metal, right? So at the time, if you think about it, Metallica had a skateboard out.
Yeah.
With I think it was with Skull Skates or Zorlak. I can't remember which one. But these metal bands were like connected to skateboarding.
And hardcore stuff too, right?
Right. And his interest in metal brought him to like hardcore, like he started listening to like Celtic Frost and then like the Crumb Suckers and all this stuff. And we kind of converged.
Wow.
And one night at his house, we were just up in his room listening to records. And he was like, I'm like, hey, have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard this? And we kind of connected on that. And then all his buddies were like, oh, wait a second. Skateboard kids like this stuff too. This is cool. Right? So that was step one. And then there was this other guy. I think his name was Chris Baker. He was a football player. He used to call me Bad Billy.
Bad Billy.
The reason he called me Bad Billy's is because Billabong had a subdivision called Bad Billy.
Billy's, yes.
Right? I wore these shorts to school that had skulls on them.
Yes.
And he loved that, right? He was a headbanger.
Yeah.
He's like, skulls on shorts? That's sick. So he started coming to the shop to buy anything with skulls on them. And it kind of permeated his like social world. And like this really weird connection was made socially. And then we kind of became friends.
That's
like
epic. It's like Bad Billy's and Life's a Beach were the crossover brands for jocks into surf and skate.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at least where I'm from.
Or Life's a Beach with the Bad Boy graphic and all that too. Right. Like those two.
So he started buying all the Bad Billy stuff because the logo was like a skull.
Oh, it's epic. Yeah. So what do you feel you picked up from Rick? What do you think you got from your experience at that shop? What were the things that you were thinking about recently that led you to here or sent you on that trajectory?
So I was always, it seemed like I was always going to be involved in clothing in some way. Mm-hmm. My friends, when I was really young, one of them had a brand called Pervert, which was kind of short-lived, but really respected brand at the early days of what people now call streetwear.
Yeah.
And I worked with him and he was brilliant creatively. And so I was always going to do that. And I bought clothes for the store and I went to the trade shows and I was buying Quicksilver and, Rusty. I was even buying bikinis for the shop. It was completely insane.
Surf Expo, so great to go to as a teenager, isn't it?
16-year-old with a $250,000 budget. I was like, king of the universe.
That's rad.
So I was always going to be in clothing, but so when I eventually got to do my own business, one of the things that I discussed with my team and with my wife Estelle, who was going to be heavily involved in the brand culture and the visuals and the store design and everything, was that the store needed to feel like a shop. Shops, surf shops, skate shops were cultural centers.
Yeah.
People come, they hang out, they exchange ideas, they learn things from each other. We used to skate in the parking lot. We would have birthday parties, happy hours on Friday night. It was very much a center for a lot of people. And I said, the store has to feel like that. It has to be welcoming. People have to feel like they can come and like talk to the staff and be a part of what we're doing. It can't be this box that just takes your money and gives you a product back. Mm-hmm. It has to be a real living, breathing thing that has an impact. So I think that came from the shop culture. I think he also, I don't think it grew until much later, but I think he also planted the seed about surfers' responsibilities to the environment.
Nice.
When no one was really having those conversations, he was talking about it. And I didn't take him seriously then. I was a teenager. I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, who cares about the foam peanuts in our, box that just got delivered of board shorts? And he's like, he was saying things to me like, why do board shorts need foam peanuts?
Yeah.
They can't be damaged, And why are they shipping them to us already on plastic hangers and in plastic bags? He would call Quicksilver and Body Glove and all these people like, guys, stop sending me this stuff.
Well, yeah. Well, one, as a buyer, it'd be like, why am I paying for all this extra crap on here when it could be shipped? And then environmental, you guys you're surfers. As surfers, you would think, right? Like these companies would have been on it much sooner with that sort of stuff.
And no one was thinking about it, but he was talking about it. And I didn't even realize he was having an impact on me at the time.
Nice.
I didn't realize it was registering. I was just hearing it. It was like in one ear, out the other. But many, many years later, I would actually quote him and be like, oh, he was really there thinking about these things very early on. One of the things that used to happen was you place an order for whatever. Let's call it board shorts.
Yeah.
And you'd order a size run, right? and for whatever reason they didn't have the 32s when your order came. They'd ship you the order, and then